If you are old enough, you will remember those words of Rodney King. Remember the LA riots back in the 80s and how he was at the center of it, and after things got really ugly, he made the plaintive cry, "Can't we all just get along?" And that statement, unfortunately, has become more of a punchline than an actual plea. In part because we didn't remember the rest of what he had to say. He continued, "Please, we can get along here. We all can get along. I mean, we're all stuck here for a while. Let's try to work it out." And that's what we're going to do here on The Marginal Way. We're going to look for that way that helps us get along, that is a way for us to put aside not our differences, but our animosities, to quit being so hostile and divisive, and maybe hear what the other is saying. The way for us to do that is to look at ourselves, to examine how it is that we make moral decisions. We're looking at the work of Jonathan Haidt, and especially in his book, The Righteous Mind. And I encourage you, if you're interested in this, to look a little deeper. I'll put some links down in the description that will help to lead to further investigation if you're interested in this study. Jonathan Haidt's work has discovered that there are what he would define as 6 different moral foundations. Think of them as taste receptors on your tongue, how you taste things differently based on where on your tongue you taste them, and different parts respond to different stimulus. And that's what happens with our moral foundations. And we'll look at 2 in each of the episodes over 3 episodes here on Marginal Way. We will explore each moral foundation with a question of the appropriateness of a situation. In person, we are having this conversation in small groups and then talking to each other about why we made these decisions. You may want to just hit pause on the video, perhaps find some others to have the conversation with, or at least think about it on your own before continuing on. Regardless, the goal here is self-examination, so that when you encounter someone who feels differently about a situation, who makes a different moral decision, that you might pause and think about the ways that you have come to that decision, and that they may have come from a different perspective. Part of what Haidt has discovered in his extensive studying of individuals is that where you fall on the social political spectrum, whether you're on the left or on the right, will predict how many of these moral foundations you use in making moral decisions. Those who identify as being on the left emphasize 2 of the moral foundations over all the others: the foundations of care and fairness. But those on the right tend to use all 5 or 6 of these foundations much more equally. And that accounts for a lot of the divisiveness that we see. Because when you're only using a couple of the foundations and someone else is using more, it feels like, well, they might be a bit unethical, when they're actually being quite ethical, just differently moral. And so that is our hope, that we will explore that over these weeks by looking at these questions, reading a little bit of scripture, and you might even find a little bit of my take on some of these topics through some commentary about, well, competitive birding of all things. I hope you appreciate the time that we have here. Symbols are important. In competitive bird watching, there's always something that you compete for. The winner of the Super Bowl of birding is awarded a Swarovski crystal bird statue. Well, they're not actually awarded it because it's Swarovski crystal. It goes on display and the team's name gets added to the trophy. In the World Series of birding, there's a cup. It's literally a cup, one of those big cups. Think Stanley Cup. And there was a year that my team won it. And back then, it was a traveling trophy, and that trophy traveled with me. And I took it to a number of places, and the first place I took it was a brewery in Cape May. And telling the bartender there about our victory, he was impressed and said, "Let's see it." So I went out to the car and brought in the cup, and he poured me a beer in it, and I drank it. Did that degrade the cup? Did that dishonor the victory? It seemed like the thing to do at the time because it was joyous and celebratory. And did it offend someone? It might have. I might hear about it from someone viewing this video. But the bottom line is that we put value into things, and the things are not what we should value. The experiences are. The people are. The care and compassion that we show for one another and for the world around us is what we should celebrate. Now, if that is degraded, if we ignore the sanctity of that sort of life existing around us, that's when we've done something wrong.
When Christ freed us, we were meant to remain free. Stand firm, therefore, and don't submit to the yoke of slavery a second time. My siblings, you were called to freedom, but be careful, or this freedom will provide an opening for self-indulgence. Rather serve one another in works of love, since the whole of the law is summarized in a single command. Love your neighbor as yourself.
This passage has us thinking about liberty. What is Christian liberty? What are we free to do? Some would argue you're free to do most anything you want. Funny how that understanding of freedom to do whatever you want often comes down to freedom to do whatever I want. It becomes self-serving. Freedom and liberty being licensed to do whatever makes us feel good, whatever feels right to us. Freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. We are subject to the consequences of our behavior. If swinging my arm hits your nose, my claim to freedom goes out the window. But this passage lays out for us exactly what we're free to be. We're free from what went before to be slaves to one another now. Our freedom is our freedom to lay down our lives for another. We are free to live fully as children of God, knowing all the rich blessings of being God's children, free to do all sorts of things for the other. If we are to follow the path set before us, set by the example, the pioneer of our faith, Jesus, then we are to serve the other and find our freedom in laying down our lives.
Two different moral centers that these questions beg us to look at are the Sanctity Degradation Foundation and the Liberty Oppression Foundation.
The question is simple. Is this okay or not okay? Your response will no doubt not be simple, but nuanced and complex. And that's the point. Think about why you feel the way you do. What are the factors that bring you to the conclusion that you make?
Hannah inherited an old flag of her country from her father, but has never used it. One day when Hannah is cleaning the house, she discovers that she is out of rags, so she uses the flag as a rag to clean her house. The principal of a school says that none of her students are allowed to draw Muhammad on the school premises or to bring Muhammad cartoons to the school.
Now take some time to reflect. Perhaps hit pause and find someone to have a conversation with, or make some notes in a journal. When you're ready, continue with the rest of the episode. Well, what do you think? Have you learned a little something? Have you been piqued to think a little bit more? If you are serious about your spiritual journey, we hope that you will journey with us in whatever way you can. And we hope that you'll support our efforts. An important way to support us is by watching and sharing and liking these videos. Subscribe to our channel. All of these things really help. We hope that you will participate with us. And if you're moved to participate with us in reaching out to our community by helping us live out our commitment to be with those who have been marginalized by society, in offering them essentials like healthcare items and cleaning items, or through feeding meals through our Stone Soup Cafe, that you'll consider a donation to our ministry. You can visit our website and go to the donation page, and we would very much appreciate any gifts that you might share. And so, my friends, I wish you peace. Peace on this journey, on the way that is not always straight, on the way that is not always plain, on the way that takes you to the edges, that takes you out of your comfort zone, the marginal way. Until next time, safe journeys.